The sun rose gently over the quiet suburban neighborhood, casting golden rays through the large windows of Marcus Thompson's home. It was a crisp autumn morning, and the air carried the faint scent of fallen leaves. Inside the house, life unfolded, in its usual rhythm, a harmony that seemed almost too perfect to disrupt. Marcus stood by the kitchen counter, flipping pancakes on the stove while humming softly to himself. His children, Aiden and Maya, sat at the dining table, their laughter filling the room like music. Aiden, with his curious mind, was animatedly recounting a science experiment from school, while Maya giggled as she doodled colorful shapes on her notebook. Their joy was infectious, and Marcus couldn't help but smile as he turned off the burner and slid the last pancake onto a plate. "All right, team," Marcus said, setting the plate down with a flourish. "Breakfast is served. Let's see who can eat the most without making a mess this time." Maya grinned mischievously. "I'm definitely winning today." She reached for the syrup, her small hands trembling slightly with excitement. Aiden rolled his eyes playfully but joined in, the friendly competition anyway. For a few moments nothing else mattered, just the warmth of family and the simple pleasures of a shared meal. Outside, the world moved along at its usual pace. Neighbors waved as they walked their dogs or drove off to work. Children played tag in the cul-de-sac, their shouts echoing faintly in the distance. To anyone passing by, it looked like an idyllic scene, the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew each other's names and cared about one another's well-being. But beneath, the surface cracks were beginning to form. Across town, inside the local police station, things weren't so peaceful. Officers gathered around a conference table, discussing recent reports of suspicious activity in the area. Someone had claimed to have seen unfamiliar faces lurking near homes late at night. While the details were vague, the officers felt pressured to act quickly. After all, keeping the community safe was their top priority, or so they told themselves. Unbeknownst to Marcus and his family, these events would soon collide with their lives in ways no one could have anticipated. For now, though, the Thompson household remained blissfully unaware. As breakfast wound down, Marcus glanced at the clock and sighed. He needed to leave soon. An important meeting awaited him at the embassy. But first, he wanted to spend a little more time with his kids. "Aiden, how's your project coming along?" Marcus asked, leaning back in his chair. "Need any help?" Aiden shook his head proudly. "Nope, I've got it covered. You'll be impressed when I show you tomorrow." Marcus chuckled. "I already am." Then, turning to Maya, he added, "And what about you, young artist? Any masterpieces ready for display yet?" Maya held up her notebook triumphantly. "This one's my favorite," she declared, pointing to a drawing of their family standing under a rainbow. Her innocence radiated from the page, capturing the essence of their bond. For Marcus, moments like these were everything. Being a single father wasn't always easy, especially with his demanding job, but days like today reminded him why he worked so hard, to give his children the best possible life. Little did he know, however, that within hours, his world would be turned upside down, and the peace they cherished so deeply would become a memory they'd struggle to hold on to. As the family cleared the table together, none of them noticed the patrol car slowing down outside their driveway. Its lights flickered briefly before disappearing down the street. The morning routine in the Thompson household continued smoothly after breakfast. Aiden had retreated to his room to finish his science project, while Maya sprawled on the living room floor with her crayons, adding more details to her rainbow drawing. Marcus stood by the window, adjusting his tie as he glanced outside. The Atari neighborhood seemed calm, too calm perhaps, but there was no reason for concern. Just as Marcus picked up his briefcase preparing to head out for his meeting, a sharp knock echoed through the house. It startled everyone, including Maya, who dropped her red crayon mid-stroke. Marcus frowned slightly. Visitors weren't uncommon, but they rarely came unannounced this early in the day. "I'll get it," Marcus said, setting his briefcase down. He walked toward the front door, smoothing his jacket as he went. When he opened it, he was greeted by two police officers standing stiffly on his porch. Their expressions were unreadable, their postures formal and authoritative. "Good morning, sir. one of them said, his voice clipped and professional. "Are you Mr. Marcus Thompson?" Marcus nodded cautiously. "Yes, that's me. How can I assist you?" The officer hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "We've received reports of unusual activity in this area recently. We're conducting routine checks to ensure everyone's safety. May we come in and ask a few questions?" Marcus felt a flicker of unease. Routine checks? In this neighborhood? Something about the request didn't sit right with him, but he decided not to make a fuss. After all, he was a diplomat. Cooperation was key in maintaining good relations, even if something felt off. "Of course," Marcus replied politely, stepping aside to let them in. "Please come in." As the officers entered, Maya peeked curiously from behind the couch, her wide eyes watching every move. Aiden appeared at the top of the stairs, sensing the tension in the air. Marcus gestured for the officers to follow him into the living room, where he offered them seats. They declined, choosing instead to remain standing near the center of the room. "We understand you have children, Mr. Thompson," the second officer began, glancing briefly at Maya and then at Aiden upstairs. "Could we speak with them briefly as part of our inquiry?" Marcus blinked, taken aback. Speak with his children? About what? His discomfort grew, but he tried to keep his tone measured. "My children are just kids. What exactly do you need?" "To ask them?" The first officer cleared his throat. "It's nothing serious, sir. Just some clarifying questions. Standard procedure." Something in their demeanor made Marcus uneasy. He couldn't put his finger on it, but the way they looked at his children as though scrutinizing them felt wrong. Still, he nodded reluctantly. "All right, but I'd like to be present during any conversation with my kids." The officers exchanged a glance, then agreed. One of them turned to Maya, kneeling down to her level. "Hi there, sweetheart. Do you mind answering a couple of quick questions?" Maya clutched her notebook tightly, looking up at Marcus for reassurance. He gave her an encouraging smile, though his heart raced. "It's okay, Maya. You can tell them whatever you want." Kippo. Questioning began innocently enough, with simple queries about whether Maya or Aiden had noticed anything strange lately. But soon, the tone shifted. The officers started asking about items in the house. Had they seen anyone bring unfamiliar bags inside? Did they ever hear noises late at night? Aiden, overhearing from upstairs, descended cautiously. "Why are you asking us these things?" he asked boldly, his young voice tinged with suspicion. One of the officers straightened up, addressing Marcus directly. "Sir, we may need to take a look around your home to confirm everything is in order. Would you permit that?" Marcus froze. This was escalating far beyond a casual check. His mind raced. Was this truly necessary? And why did it feel so intrusive? Yet, knowing resistance might only complicate matters further, he reluctantly consented. As the officers moved through the house, inspecting rooms and opening closets, Marcus stayed close, ensuring they didn't overstep boundaries. But the damage was already being done. Aiden watched silently, his fists clenched, while Maya hugged her notebook to her chest, tears welling in her eyes. By the time the officers left, apologizing vaguely for the inconvenience, the once peaceful home felt heavy with unease. Marcus closed the door behind them, exhaling deeply. For the first time that morning, he allowed himself to feel the weight of what had just happened, and the anger simmering beneath the surface. His children needed comfort now more than answers. But deep down, Marcus knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The house fell silent after the officers left, but the tension lingered like a storm cloud, refusing to dissipate. Marcus stood by the closed front door, his hands gripping the edge of the counter as he tried to steady himself. His mind raced with questions. Why had this happened? What could they possibly have been looking for? And most importantly, why did it feel so personal? Maya sat on the floor where she'd been moments earlier, her colorful notebook now abandoned beside her. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and she hugged her knees tightly to her chest. Aiden paced back and forth in the living room, his young face etched with frustration and confusion. "Dad." Aiden finally blurted out, breaking the heavy silence. What was that about? Why were they asking all those weird questions? Marcus turned to face his children, forcing a calmness he didn't quite feel. He knelt down to their level, placing a reassuring hand on each of their shoulders. I don't know exactly why they came, he admitted softly, but I promise you both it's going to be okay. We didn't do anything wrong. Maya sniffled, looking up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. But did we do something bad? Did they think we stole something? Her innocence broke Marcus's heart. He pulled her into a tight hug, kissing the top of her head. No, sweetheart. You haven't done anything bad. Sometimes people make mistakes, and I think that's what happened here. Aiden crossed his arms, still visibly upset. It didn't feel like a mistake, Dad. It felt wrong, like they were treating us differently. Marcus hesitated, unsure how much to explain. He wanted to shield his children from harsh realities for as long as possible, but Aiden's observation was too astute to ignore. You're right, Marcus said quietly. What happened today wasn't fair, and I'm going to find out why it happened. He stood up, determination setting in. First, though, he needed to reassure his kids. For now, they deserved stability and love, not anger or fear. Let's clean up and get ready for the day, he suggested gently. We'll talk more later, okay? Right now, let's focus on making today better. Maya nodded slowly, wiping her tears with the sleeve of her sweater. Aiden gave a reluctant shrug but helped gather the scattered crayons and notebooks. As they worked together, the atmosphere in the house began to shift ever so slightly, from one of shock and sadness to quiet resilience. Meanwhile, Marcus retreated to his study, closing the door behind him. He pulled out his phone and dialed a close friend who worked in law enforcement. Hey, James, Marcus said when the call connected. I need your advice about something serious. Over the next few minutes, Marcus recounted the morning's events, careful not to let his emotions take over. James listened intently, his tone growing increasingly concerned. That doesn't sound right at all, Marcus, he said when Marcus finished. There's no reason for them to treat you or your family that way unless there's some kind of misunderstanding, or worse. Exactly, Marcus replied, rubbing his temples. I need to figure out what's going on. Can you help me look into it? James promised to reach out to his contacts and see if he could uncover any information. Hanging up, Marcus leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. He knew he couldn't let this slide, not just for his sake, but for his children's. They deserved answers, justice, and protection from whatever forces had led to this unwarranted intrusion. As the hours passed, Marcus juggled calls and texts, between friends, colleagues, and even a lawyer he trusted. Each conversation deepened his resolve. Whatever the truth was, he intended to uncover it and hold those responsible accountable. By late afternoon, the initial sting of the morning had begun to transform into something else. Purpose. Marcus realized that this incident wasn't just about him or his family. It was about standing up against unfairness and ensuring that no other parent or child had to endure what they had gone through. When dinner rolled around, Marcus joined his kids at the table, a renewed sense of strength in his demeanor. Listen, he began, meeting their eyes. I know today was hard, and I'm sorry you had to experience that. But I want you to remember something important. We are strong, and we will always stand up for what's right. Together. Aiden nodded slowly while Maya reached across the table to hold her father's hand. In that moment, despite everything, the Thompsons found solace in knowing they weren't alone. They had each other. And sometimes that was enough to face whatever came next. The next morning, the neighborhood buzzed with quiet whispers. Word of the police visit to the Thompson household had spread quickly, though details remained hazy and speculative. Neighbors exchanged uneasy glances as they retrieved their mail or walked their dogs, unsure how to approach Marcus or his children. Some felt sympathy. Others harbored doubt, their minds clouded by assumptions they couldn't quite articulate. For Marcus, stepping outside that day was a test of composure. He needed to run errands, groceries, dry cleaning, but he also wanted to gauge the community's reaction firsthand. As he loaded bags into his car, Mrs. Patel from across the street approached cautiously, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "Marcus," she began hesitantly. "I heard about what happened yesterday. Is everything all right?" Marcus forced a polite smile, though his jaw tightened slightly. "We're fine. Thank you for asking. It was just a misunderstanding, but we're handling it." Mrs. Patel nodded nervously, clearly unsure whether to press further. "Well, if there's anything I can do, please let me know." Her kindness was genuine, but Marcus noticed the lingering hesitation in her tone. It wasn't hostility, it was uncertainty. And that uncertainty gnawed at him. How many others in the neighborhood felt the same way? Were they questioning his family's integrity because of an unexplained police visit? Back at home, Aiden and Maya tried to distract themselves with schoolwork and games, but the weight of the previous day still hung over them. At recess, Aiden overheard classmates talking about the incident. One boy smirked knowingly. "My dad said your house got searched because someone thought you guys were up to no good." Aiden's cheeks burned with anger. "That's not true," he shot back. "They didn't find anything because we didn't do anything wrong." The playground fell silent for a moment before another child chimed in awkwardly. Maybe it was just a mistake. But the damage was done. Aiden returned home that afternoon quieter than usual, retreating to his room without saying much. Maya, too, faced questions during art class when a classmate pointed out her red-rimmed eyes from the day before. "Why were you crying?" the girl asked bluntly. Maya shrugged, embarrassed, unsure how to explain something she barely understood herself. That evening, Marcus sat with his kids at the kitchen table, sensing their unease. "I know things might feel different right now," he said gently. "People are curious, and sometimes curiosity turns into gossip. But remember this, none of it changes who we are. We know the truth, and that's all that matters." Aiden looked up, his voice trembling slightly. "But Dad, why are people treating us differently? Why does everyone have to talk about it?" Marcus sighed, leaning forward. "Because fear makes people act in strange ways. When something unexpected happens, some folks jump to conclusions instead of seeking facts. It's not fair, and it's not easy, but we can't control what other people think. What we can do is show them who we really are through our actions." Later that night, after tucking Maya into bed and checking on Aiden one last time, Marcus stepped onto the porch to clear his head. The cool evening air offered little comfort, but it gave him space to reflect. His phone buzzed. A message from James, his friend in law enforcement. "Got some info," the text read. "Meet me tomorrow morning at the cafe downtown." Relief washed over Marcus, followed swiftly by determination. Answers were within reach, and he intended to seize them. For now, though, he focused on protecting his family's peace. He couldn't shield them entirely from the ripple effects of the unjust search, but he could remind them daily of their worth and ensure they never doubted their own value. As he gazed up at the stars, Marcus whispered a silent promise to himself. Justice would come. And until then, he would stand unwavering, for Aiden, for Maya, and for every family that deserved respect and fairness. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the small downtown cafe early, his mind racing with anticipation. He ordered a cup of coffee and found a quiet corner table, where he waited anxiously for James. The streets outside buzzed with commuters rushing to work, but inside the cafe, time seemed to slow as Marcus replayed the events of the past 2 days in his head. When James walked in, his usual confident stride faltered slightly as he spotted Marcus. His expression was grim, carrying an unspoken weight that made Marcus's stomach tighten. James slid into the seat across from him, placing a folder on the table between them. "Thanks for meeting me," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the nervous energy coursing through him. "What did you find out?" James hesitated before speaking, choosing his words carefully. "I talked to a few people last night. It wasn't easy getting answers, but here's what I know so far." He opened the folder, revealing documents and handwritten notes. The report about suspicious activity in your neighborhood? It came from an anonymous tip, a vague claim about strange individuals seen near homes late at night. No specifics, no evidence, just hearsay. Marcus frowned, leaning forward. And based on that, they decided to search my house? Why target us specifically? James exhaled deeply, avoiding direct eye contact for a moment. That's the troubling part. According to one officer I spoke with, someone higher up flagged your address specifically. They mentioned, well, let's just say there were comments about your family being new to the area and standing out. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Standing out. The implications were clear, though neither man voiced them outright. This wasn't about crime prevention. It was about prejudice disguised as protocol. What else? Marcus asked, his jaw clenched tightly. There's more, James continued reluctantly. One of the officers involved admitted privately that they questioned whether you'd reported all your diplomatic credentials correctly when you moved in, like maybe there was something you were hiding. Marcus slammed his hand on the table softly, startling a nearby patron. That's absurd. My paperwork is impeccable. I followed every rule to the letter. How could anyone think otherwise? James held up a calming hand. I'm not defending them, Marcus. I'm just telling you what I heard. Someone used flimsy excuses to justify targeting your family. Whether it was intentional or not, the result speaks for itself. For a long moment, Marcus sat silently, processing everything. The injustice of it burned within him, but beneath the anger lay sadness, for his children, who didn't deserve this scrutiny, for himself, whose hard work and integrity had been called into question, and even for the community which had allowed such biases to fester unchecked. As he sipped his now cool coffee, Marcus turned to James. Do we have enough to prove wrongdoing? Can we hold them accountable? James nodded slowly. We might, but it won't be easy. We'll need to file a formal complaint and involve the department's internal affairs division. If we push hard enough, they'll have to investigate their own actions. And trust me, nobody likes bad press. Marcus straightened in his chair, resolve hardening in his eyes. Then that's exactly what we'll do. I won't let this slide. Not for my kids, not for anyone else who might face the same treatment. Before leaving the cafe, Marcus sent a quick text to his lawyer, updating him on the new information. Then he drove home, determined to shield his family from further harm while preparing them for what lay ahead. When he walked through the door, Aiden looked up from his homework. Dad, are things going to get better? Marcus knelt beside him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Yes, son. Things will get better because we're going to make sure of it. Together. Though the road ahead would be challenging, Marcus knew one thing for certain. Silence wouldn't bring justice. Only action and truth could heal the wounds inflicted by ignorance and bias. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity for Marcus. Armed with the information James had provided, he worked tirelessly alongside his lawyer to draft a formal complaint against the police department. Every evening after ensuring Aiden and Maya were settled with their homework or dinner, Marcus retreated to his study, poring over documents and strategizing his next steps. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him, but he refused to let it break him. At school, life became increasingly difficult for Aiden and Maya. Whispers trailed them in hallways, and curious stares lingered during recess. Some classmates offered kind words while others whispered cruel assumptions behind their backs. Aiden tried to stay strong, but the constant scrutiny wore on him. One afternoon, as he sat alone under a tree sketching in his notebook, another boy approached hesitantly. Hey, the boy said softly, sitting down beside him. I heard about what happened at your house. That must have been rough. Aiden glanced up, surprised by the unexpected kindness. Yeah, it was. People keep talking like we did something wrong, but we didn't. The boy nodded thoughtfully. My mom says sometimes people make mistakes because they're scared or don't understand. It doesn't mean you deserve it, though. For the first time in days, Aiden felt a flicker of hope. Maybe not everyone judged them unfairly. Maybe some people truly cared. He smiled faintly and went back to drawing, feeling slightly less isolated. Meanwhile, Marcus attended meetings with his lawyer, who assured him they had a solid case. "We'll present evidence of the discriminatory behavior," the lawyer explained, confidently. "And if necessary, we'll take this to the media. Public accountability often forces institutions to act." Marcus agreed, but insisted they proceed cautiously. He didn't want to expose his children to unnecessary attention or risk escalating tensions in the community. Instead, he focused on building alliances, reaching out to neighbors who supported him, speaking with local leaders, and even connecting with other families who had faced similar challenges. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm hues across the living room, Marcus gathered Aiden and Maya for a family meeting. "Listen, kids," he began, sitting cross-legged on the floor with them. "Things might get a little harder before they get better. We're going to stand up for ourselves, not just for us, but for anyone else who's treated unfairly. Are you ready to face that together?" Maya clutched her stuffed rabbit tightly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Will people still be mean to us?" Marcus reached out, pulling her close. "Some might, sweetheart, but remember this. Being brave isn't about never feeling scared, it's about doing the right thing even when you're afraid. And no matter what happens, I'm here with you." Aiden nodded firmly. "I'm not scared anymore, Dad. Let's show them we're stronger than this." Their courage bolstered Marcus's resolve. Over the weekend, he organized a small gathering at his home, inviting trusted friends, neighbors, and community advocates. They shared stories, discussed strategies, and brainstormed ways to address systemic biases in their area. By the end of the evening, a sense of unity filled the room, a collective determination to create change. As the formal complaint was submitted to the police department, word spread throughout the neighborhood. Some residents expressed outrage, vowing to support Marcus and his family. Others remained silent, unsure where they stood. But Marcus knew progress wasn't measured by immediate results. It was about planting seeds of awareness and justice. Late. One night, as Marcus tucked Maya into bed, she looked up at him with sleepy eyes. "Dad, will everything be okay soon?" He kissed her forehead gently. "Yes, sweetheart. Everything will be okay, because we're standing together, and that makes us unstoppable." In that moment, surrounded by love and resilience, Marcus realized the battle wasn't just about clearing his family's name. It was about creating a world where no child had to endure the sting of prejudice or question their worth. And for that, he would fight tirelessly. The weeks that followed were a mix of tension and hope. The police department's Internal Affairs Division launched an investigation into the incident at Marcus's home, sparking debates both within the community and beyond. News outlets picked up the story, highlighting not just the search itself, but also the broader issues of bias and accountability in law enforcement. Marcus handled interviews with grace, always keeping his focus on fairness and justice, not revenge. For Aiden and Maya, life slowly began to stabilize. While some classmates still whispered behind their backs, others stepped forward to show support. One day, Maya came home beaming after her teacher praised her artwork, a vibrant painting of a family standing beneath a rainbow, and encouraged the class to celebrate differences instead of fearing them. "She said our family is strong," Maya told Marcus excitedly, holding her painting proudly. "And that makes us special." Aiden found strength in unexpected places, too. During lunch, a group of boys invited him to join their soccer game. At first, he hesitated, unsure if they genuinely meant it or were mocking him. But their smiles were sincere, and for the first time in weeks, Aiden felt like he belonged again. As he ran across the field, laughing alongside his peers, Marcus watched from afar, his heart swelling with pride. Meanwhile, the investigation yielded results. Internal Affairs confirmed that the decision to target Marcus's home had been based on unfounded assumptions rather than credible evidence. Several officers involved were reprimanded, and new training programs on cultural sensitivity and anti-bias practices were mandated department-wide. Though the outcome wasn't perfect, it marked a step toward meaningful change. One crisp morning, Marcus received a letter from the police chief himself. In it was a formal apology addressed to the Thompson family. "We regret the distress caused by the actions of our officers," the letter read. "It is our commitment to ensure such mistakes do not happen again." Marcus read it aloud to Aiden and Maya, who listened intently. "Does this mean it's over?" Maya asked, clutching her father's hand. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "It means we've taken a big step forward. But remember, true change takes time and effort from everyone." To mark the resolution, Marcus organized a community event at the local park. Families gathered under colorful tents, sharing food, music, and stories. Aiden joined a pickup basketball game, while Maya painted pictures with other children on long rolls of paper spread across picnic tables. Neighbors who had once kept their distance now approached Marcus warmly, thanking him for shining a light on important issues. As the sun set, casting golden hues over the park, Marcus stood before the crowd, microphone in hand. "Today isn't just about my family," he began, his voice steady yet full of emotion. "It's about all of us coming together to build a better future, one where no one is judged unfairly, and everyone feels safe and respected." The applause that followed was heartfelt and genuine, echoing through the evening air. For Marcus, it was more than closure. It was affirmation that love and unity could overcome even the darkest moments. That night, as Marcus tucked Aiden and Maya into bed, he felt a profound sense of peace. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but they had faced adversity together and emerged stronger because of it. "Good night, my brave warriors," Marcus whispered, kissing each child on the forehead. "Tomorrow is a new day." And with that, the Thompson household drifted off to sleep, ready to embrace whatever challenges or triumphs lay ahead. In their hearts burned a quiet certainty. They had fought for justice, and in doing so, they had sparked something far greater than themselves, a ripple effect of kindness, understanding, and resilience that would endure long after the headlines faded.